culture is becoming less tolerant of God. That is a reality. Type something in on Facebook or something that is plus or towards the Word of God or positive, and you will get slammed. You can end up on the wrong side of a conversation really, really quickly. Number two, the culture needs God more than ever. So we see a problem here. We're seeing that the culture is becoming more and more hostile towards God than it's ever been. But at the same time, we as believers, guess what? We're in an awkward position. What do you mean, Pastor Tony? I mean that the culture needs God more than ever, yet it's hostile towards God more than ever. So what does that mean? There's a tool in marriage counseling that I share very often. I call it hugging the porcupine. And maybe you've experienced. If you've been in a relationship or maybe you're married, you'll kind of understand that I believe we're in one of those hugging the porcupine moments. What I mean by that is sometimes your spouse or yourself needs rescued. Maybe you had an argument or you had a misunderstanding and you see that person is in a bad place and you want to help them, and sometimes you know it's going to cost you. You're going to get some quills, but you have to embrace the porcupine. That porcupine, that person may be saying, you know what, I don't want anything to do with you. Get away from me right now. But you know that what they really need is not less communication, not to stonewall and pull away, but they need you to love them unconditionally in that moment. And what that means is, again, I refer to it as hugging or embracing the porcupine. There are times when I have to rescue my wife or my wife has to rescue me. And you know, hurting people have a tendency to hurt people. Well, that's kind of where we are with our culture. Our culture is more hostile towards God than ever, but it's more in need of God than ever. And guess what? We're the ones who have to reach out, embrace the porcupine, take the quills, take the pain, and give them what they really need but don't want, which is the truth, which is the love of God that they are more and more hostile towards. Okay, so what do we need to do in order for this to happen? One, we need to commit to the fact that the only hope is in God. Guys, again, I know this sounds elementary, but until we as believers, until we as people who know the truth, commit to the fact that the only hope is in God, we will run down all the arbitrary solution roads that have been there for years and years. The things that exist now, the problems that we have now are not new problems. And it's not going to take some new solution. It's actually an ancient solution. It is God and His presence that brings favor in a country, that brings unity. It is division that destroys a country and a culture. So the enemy is the accuser of the brethren. So when you see constant accusations against this group or that group, and you're trying to be divided into small little groups, and everybody, I'm this, and then suddenly it's this person against the world. All of a sudden what we've done is we've isolated ourselves when we need to unify ourselves where? In God. God is the answer. It's not appeasing this group or appeasing that group or even, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not universal equality in everything. All things are not equal. I'm sorry, my parents were not born rich. I was born into abstract poverty, but that doesn't mean anything. When God said, son, if you will follow me, I will bless the work of your hands. I have to let go of those things and understand that my future is different with God. And we need to help people understand that our country's future can be different with God than it is on the current path. So we need to commit to the fact that the only hope is in God. Until that point, we're going to keep running after a bunch of foolish stuff. Now, the second part is to commit to fully embrace and to share the only way to God. So if the only hope for this country is God, then the only hope, the second part is that it's going to require a complete commitment to sharing the only way back to God, which is Jesus Christ. That is the gospel. We need to know it. We need to understand it. We need to know how to articulate it. So we need to commit to God as the only hope, and then we need to commit to the gospel as the only way to bring mankind back. That is our tool. That is the single power, the single source. It is the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is the power of God unto salvation, and that's what we're talking about. Until we corporately are released from bondage, until we independently or individually are released from bondage, we're never going to see that corporate release. from bondage that we need so much in our nation.